Welcome to Coffee with Father Tom. I'm Father Tom Hoare. This is Dony MacManus. He's from Dublin and now resides in Virginia, and he is a sacred artist. And Hunter Dickens, who is our director of our Institute of Sacred Art. Hunter joined us in January and is leading a rebirth and an expanded sacred art program. So welcome. I thought maybe it would be good for us to talk a little bit about what sacred art is and what the goals that we have for moving forward with our Sacred Art Institute.
Sounds good. Well, one of the first things we wanted to focus on when Father brought me on was focus on really having a relationship with God. So we're not just here to make art or make something pretty, but something that actually brings people closer to Christ. So that we look at sacred art as that window into heaven.
And again, experiencing the creative genius of God and how we can bring that to the world in new ways today. And we met Dony and a couple of months ago down in Virginia, and I was terribly impressed when you talked about your mission as an artist, as a sacred artist, was to reclaim the dignity and the sanctity of the human form as a way to combat the growing pornographic images that are flooding the world.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's part of it. The most important thing for me is, I suppose, was to reclaim the discipline, the structure of the profession of an artist. Mm-hmm. So teaching people how to draw, how to contemplate visually, deeply, to listen with your eyes, as it were, really deeply. And then the overflow of that drawing in sculpture and painting. So that those disciplines are taught at the highest level possible, on the professional level. And that's what I did with the Irish Academy of Figurative Art, which I founded in 2004 in Dublin, after graduating from the New York Academy in Dublin, in New York City. So then after that, I was asked by the Cardinal Archbishop of Florence to start the Sacred Art School Firenze, so as to bring that discipline, that professional discipline, to the service of the church. And I started that in Beato Angelico's studio in Florence, and it grew into the Sacred Art School Firenze, which was founded in 2011. And then I moved over here recently, and I have the same mission to accomplish maybe a liturgical art studio here in the United States, where we could serve the liturgy in the spirit of the liturgy of Ratzinger's ideas in the spirit of liturgy. So originally working from a foundation of theology of the body, so as to reinterpret the incarnation in a post-contraceptive culture and reconstruct human sexuality in the contemporary situation we're in. And then to put that in the service of the liturgy, in the spirit of the liturgy, the writings of Pope Benedict.
And Hunter, you've been working on a couple of new projects to bring sacred artists together for conversations and support. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So, like you're saying, we hope to develop a real community of artists, both here on the island and with our online classes that we're building. One thing that we've talked a lot with Dony is the need for artists to be literate in what they're doing in sacred art. That this approach is really supposed to bring forth the truth, goodness, and beauty of Christ. And so as an artist, you have to take up that responsibility to do all of those things. And so in our classes, both in person and online, we want to help build that in the artists.
The art has always been in service to the gospel and to the church. We know that in times when the secular world has tried to suppress the preaching of the gospel, it was the art that was in the chapels and the churches and the homes of people that were able to remind them of the greater mystery that they were invited to enter into. And I remember when the wall came down and Russia, Soviet Union dissolved, we discovered that there were many, many more Christians in the Soviet Union, because the grandmothers would take their grandchildren into the basilicas and the cathedrals that the communists had as museums, and tell the story of the gospel with the art. And even in the Middle Ages, when people were illiterate, and they looked at the stained glass, and they looked at the art in these beautiful cathedrals, and even the structure of the cathedral itself brought their eyes to heaven. They had a sense of the majesty and the beauty that God intended us to share in.
Mm-hmm. So it's the Biblia Pauperum, that's the Bible. The Bible of the people are the images, because most people were illiterate originally in the history of the church, and they understood the Bible through images. I think that's very interesting in a predominantly Protestant country like the United States. To unpack the Bible in images is a great way for people to come closer to the scriptures, and not only through your mind but also through your heart.
Right, because I think a beautiful piece of art draws us into it. And when we look at the images of an icon, or a sculpture or a stained glass, we can be drawn into the story, into the beauty that's there, and kind of reflect upon how that can enrich my life. So Hunter and I have been talking about how can we bring this, not only the discipline, but the sense of art to as many people as we can. And we're working on a program that we hope that we'll be able to launch in the next year, of bringing sacred art into Catholic high schools. A lot of Catholic high schools don't have the resources to have robust art programs, but if we could bring it to them, then we can help young people discover this early in their lives, and that it will be something that will enrich their own spiritual development.
Well, as a means of evangelization, I think Cardinal Ratzinger again talks about this: beauty has the power to pierce the heart and to bring with it truth and goodness.
Yeah.
And those three transcendentals of truth, goodness, and beauty are really the main means of communicating the faith. And in an age where, as Cardinal Ratzinger himself said at the funeral of John Paul II, he warned us about the dictatorship of relativism. And we are under that dictatorship very much right now. Mm-hmm. And I think in that context, people's idea of truth, people might say to you, oh, your idea of truth, your truth is different to my truth, or this is my truth. Yeah. Or your idea of goodness is different to my idea of goodness. But beauty is somewhere where we come together and admire. Maybe the Pietà, maybe a sunset, but beauty can bring us together, and in that conversation we can come to understand each other better, and truth and goodness can come in through that, like smoke under the door, as it were, and intoxicate us with truth and goodness.
Well, Hunter, what was that phrase that Pope Benedict had used?
Wounded by beauty.
Wounded by beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to wound a lot more people by the beauty of God's creative genius and how it's reflected in art.
So one thing that we want to focus on with beauty too is it's not just what's visually attractive. Being a retreat center, I think we have a unique approach and a unique standing that we're looking at the whole person as we approach this. And it's one thing that we really focus on in the sacred arts is we're not just here to make a painting, to make an image, but as growing the entire human being. St. Martin of Tours, when he shared his cloak, he saw a homeless person on the side of the street, and rather just giving him a handout, he tore his cloak in two. And so we recognize beauty in that, and that the person receiving that may not have seen anything beautiful in just being passed something, but in that sharing as equals, there was something beautiful. So again, beauty isn't just what we're visually showing, but something lived out in that experience. And I think being a retreat center, when we bring people in for the 5-day classes, there's something more that they're being offered here than just an art class. They're able to receive the Mass. They're able to receive all of these different things in that.
And to have that quiet time just to contemplate the beauty of God, the majesty of God. The other thing that Hunter's been very good at and is helping to integrate what we do in sacred art with what we do with recovery, and how helping people who are especially early in recovery discover not only the beauty of God, the beauty of images, but as a pathway to discovering their own beauty, because they too are a reflection of God's creative genius. And oftentimes, people who are imprisoned by addiction have lost any sense of beauty.
With the island itself, I think it's really a transcendental experience. Transcendental in that you have the truth of our Lord in the Eucharist here. You have the goodness of the charity and the outreach, and then you have the beauty of art. So,
And the beauty of God's creation all around us.
absolutely.
I mean, every morning, I hear that it happens every morning, there's this beautiful sunrise.
Yeah.
But I'm often stand on my little balcony and look and just awed by the grandeur of the sunsets, and also even the gray in the winter when you look out and you over the water and people say the sky is gray, the land is gray, the sea is gray. There's still something majestic in that, and it's helping people see beyond just the physical, to see into that experience of God's creative genius and His call for us to celebrate and reflect that beauty into a disordered world.
Or almost like Van Morrison looking into the mystic.
There you go. Yeah. One of the things I love is when the island is socked in by fog, and you can't see anything beyond the seawall. And I've always had the sense I've preached about it. We can't see what's out there, but we know it's there. And we can't see God, but we know He's there.
Yeah. Once you cross the causeway onto the island, it really pulls you out of the loud that is the world around us, and it brings you into a new space, just as walking into a church should. That's why we have stained glass. That's why we have all these images on the inside. We're not supposed to be looking out. We're supposed to be feeling like we're walking into a new world there, into heaven. Yeah. And so I think that's something that you bring into as you come across onto the island. Hopefully you noticed it here.
Well, it reminds me of Ireland. It's just another beautiful island. An island off an island.
Well, your island is a little bit bigger than our island. But we hope that you'll come and visit us here at Ender's Island, and to really ponder entering into the experience of the workshops and sacred art here at Ender's. You don't have to be a real talented artist. What you have to be is you have to be open. You have to be quiet. You have to be willing to take the risk of trying maybe something new. And you might be really surprised at what happens. And I think that's very much analogous to the spiritual life. Be willing to try something new and to pursue God, to pursue the beauty of God and the beauty of His his creative genius, and might be surprised at what happens.